This episode is brought to you by Sisu Sauna. Sauna and contrast therapy offers a natural and holistic approach to wellness, providing numerous benefits that support physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Heat from the sauna helps relax muscles and improves blood circulation, aiding in the recovery of strained or fatigued muscles. It can also help reduce muscle soreness after intense physical activity. We've been lucky enough to have Sisu Sauna on board as a partner of Power Monkey Camp for the past few camps, and it's been an incredible addition. We've added contrast therapy as a station to our camp, and the campers and staff have loved the added experience. I try to jump in the sauna as often as I can. We're in Tennessee for our camp, and I can't wait to add one of these to my home gym. Sisu Saunas are made in the USA using the highest quality wood and steel products, plus their new Huum heaters are the best on the market. If you're interested in trying contrast therapy, we cannot recommend these saunas highly enough. Please use the code POWERMONKEY, all one word, all lowercase, for 5% off. Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world of fitness about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host this week being Mike Service and Jordan Samuel, and we are talking everything 24.3, the last week's workout for the 2024 CrossFit Open. It just was announced. We just watched those athletes rip through the workout, and we are here with one of the top coaches in the industry, Caroline Lambray, the coach to the fittest man in the world, Jeffrey Adler. We've had Caroline on in the past. She's fantastic. She's been out with us at Power Monkey Camp a number of times, and she has a great mind that gives advice not only for the elite athlete, but also for the everyday athlete. Being an affiliate owner herself at CrossFit Wonderland, she knows what it means to have to tackle these open workouts for the everyday athlete. Very quickly, the workout itself is 5 rounds of 10 thrusters and 10 chest-to-bar pull-ups, 65-95 on the weight, 1 minute rest, and then another 5 round of 7 thrusters at a second weight, bumping up to 95 and 135, and then 7 bar muscle-ups. Gymnastics heavy on the pull. Can you get your body above the bar on those bar muscle-ups? And then obviously the increase on the weight on the thrusters. A little bit of a Fran type of workout here. Fran upgraded. Hope you guys enjoy this one. It is the last weekend of the Open for this season. Get after it. For those of you that are moving on to quarterfinals, good luck. But we hope you guys are able to take some notes from this podcast and apply them to the workout. Enjoy the weekend. All right. Well, Caroline, always good to have you on. Thank you for taking the time. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing good. Thank you. You get through yourself?
We're all good. We're all good all over the world, all over the country, but we are ready to go for 24-3 and just completed watching the superstars perform. Initial take in terms of how you think this is going to go down for Jeff.
I think it's going to go down well. Thrusters are, he's good at thrusters, good at gymnastics, good at recovering, because this is definitely, it's not a sprint out of the gate. Like, you have another 5 rounds behind, so you have to be able to gauge your intensity just right for that second half. Like, you're not winning the first 5 rounds, right? You have to complete the whole workout. So I think this is a good workout for him. It's a classic, like, last week of the Open workout. So yeah.
Jordan and I were prior to watching the 4 games athletes go, we were trying to make some guesses on how long the first 5 rounds would go, who would finish, how long the entire workout would go, and we were estimating about 35 seconds for each of the first 5 rounds. And Ariel and Jay were both going sub 30 seconds for the first couple of rounds. It was crazy. Like, it really was a sprint. And I'm curious if that, for an athlete like Jeff, or an athlete that's kind of built, like Roman is long, right? Like, thrusters just take a long time for him compared to maybe like a Colton in terms of like how quick you can cycle through those movements. But it seems like around 30 seconds is feasible to maintain for those first few rounds. Like, Ariel did it in under 3 minutes. Jay, both of them did it under 3 minutes the first 5 rounds.
Yeah, it's doable. It's more transition than Fran. So I would definitely recommend, like, if you know what your Fran time is, it's 4 more, like, it's 2 and 2. It's 4 more transition. So you'll need to add that time, knowing that the bar is 5 feet away. And then, like, if you're only doing Fran, then you're only doing Fran. Like, you have to keep in mind that there's another 5 rounds after. So if you're going like full steam ahead on those first 5, you need to make sure that 1 minute of rest is enough for you to go again full steam ahead. Otherwise, you have to hold back a little bit.
I have to bring this up because it's always a point that I talk about endlessly when it comes to the bar muscle ups. Second portion, heavy thrusters and bar muscle ups, and
I
I
mean,
want to
heavy
get
for the
everybody's
community, not heavy for the elite.
Yeah, Dave, I love
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I love
heavier,
that.
heavier,
Heavier.
heavier. Yeah, increasing of the weight.
Increase.
Yeah,
Weight number 2.
weight number 2. Yeah, not heavy for the absolute beasts that will be doing this and finishing at the top of the leaderboard. But singles for us mere mortals when it comes to 135. But the bar muscle up, Ariel was getting a lot of no reps on her bar muscle up because what was being viewed as, I believe, the toes coming up a little bit too high above the bar.
Yeah.
You could see the difference pretty substantially between the way that Sydney was doing hers, more of a vertical pull. It's actually a lot more strength reliant when you're doing that type of a bar muscle up versus the one that's a little bit more of like a glide kip version where your gymnastic swing, letting the toes and the hips rise a little bit more.
Yep.
And so, okay, the standard is what it is. Toes are coming up too high. I don't think this should be a standard. And I've talked about this like forever. And I'm curious because you've judged for so long and, you've had such a, and you've been on the floor at such a high level. I think it is a standard that doesn't make sense. And it's one that I think will eventually work towards not being a standard anymore. But can you tell me why you think there's value in telling someone that they can use a swinging action, but only to a fixed point? Like, to me, it's like saying someone you can snatch, but you're not allowed to open up your hips all the way. You're only allowed to open up to a particular angle, and then you have to drop on the bar from there. So from my perspective, if you're going to say the person can utilize swing and get above the bar, let them maximize the efficiency of that movement. Why cap it at a particular height? It just makes it more confusing for the judge, and it doesn't allow the athlete to take advantage of a, potentially more efficient swing.
There'd be 2 things for me. I think the lesser important of the 2 in regards of like what the standard should or could be is you do need to go through a portion of what they call the transition and therefore like a dip. So with the glide, it would be much easier to keep the arms straight as you're going around. And that would also make the judging more difficult. So is it easier to look at where people's feet are, or is it going to be easier to look at people's elbows? Like, I don't know. But that could be one. The other thing, and now we would have to like talk to CrossFit in particular, there is a difference between a kip and a glide kip. So I think like just from the history of where CrossFit has been, they wanted the kip. And then maybe because people weren't good enough to know about the glide kip or, practice or whatever, I do think that could potentially change over the years. The sport is still young. So if, if the athletes are getting better, then the judges need to get better as well. So it would be interesting to see if that does evolve over time, but that would be like one of where I think it stems from is more like, well, if that's the type of kipping that we were showing, then that's the type of kipping that we want to keep. And so they're just like dismissing the glide kip. I don't think it makes sense or doesn't make sense. I understand from a gymnastics standpoint that it's more efficient. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm curious about the conversation because I think it's important. Like, the athletes are clearly using it more because it is more efficient. You know what I mean? Like, it was a natural progression because athletes found it to be, hey, it's not as fatiguing on my triceps to have to do a full dip on the top of the bar each round. Now, if it's required to do that, from my perspective, instead of doing a full straight arm lat pull down, I'll finish with a little bit of a bend that's allowable and then go from there. So, we're seeing a lot more athletes do this higher toe position because it's not as fatiguing. So it just kind of transition naturally into one. So in my mind, I think we'll start to see that becoming less of an issue, less of an area where a judge needs to be concerned with. But I was surprised to see.
Curious to see which one is faster.
Like, it's probably slower because it's a much larger swing. It's probably slower. But
you're saving on energy, but you're also, putting in more time. Yep. So again, depending on the type of workout, it's like, having different types of gymnastics grip or different type of belt or different type of you should have a variety of options too. You should be able to utilize more of a glide kip versus more of a regular kip. Athletes should be versed in both because that's what's going to allow them to win and, just be better and score more or less points depending on the system. But yeah, I'm not sure right now why it's, not allowed, but it'll be interesting to see where it's going to go.
All right, awesome. That was just my technique question in terms of how these work. I'm watching Ariel unfortunately survive some of those no reps when it comes to toes coming too high. Jordan, what was your thoughts on structure of the workout?
This is the kind of workout that I generally like, or at least I would have liked back when I was trying to be competitive. These days, I'm not so sure how much I'm going to like it, but I think it's simple, and I think it requires a pacing element, which is super important. I like it a lot.
So pacing seems to be a critical component here for the everyday athlete. We moved from Jeff being able to probably blow through this in sub 10 minutes, being around that 9-minute mark where Jay was. But for the everyday athlete, pacing and knowing what those numbers are going to be pretty critical. If you were to do this with your gym Wonderland, what would be some of the considerations that you're going to go through with your athletes to make sure that they're attacking this appropriately?
I mean, the first thing is like, what is your volume of gymnastics? Because it always comes down to that. So whether people are doing at scale, because it's still a jumping chest to bar, which people might not be, as well versed in terms of a scaling option, or like how often they work out. So do they know their cycling rate, recuperation rate, all of that? But if we're looking at the RX athlete, it's still 50 reps. Like, do you have 50 chest to bar pull-ups? If the answer is no, don't stress out about the muscle ups. Like at this point, it doesn't matter, because if you get there, yay, you'll get one. And then again, it will play for or against you, because we do have the tie break. So if you're not going to complete the workout, you want to have the best tie break, but with the best score. So if you blow through that first part and you have no energy, and you don't have, like, even if you have 5 minutes left, and you take 4 minutes of rest, are those 4 minutes of rest enough for you to get the 7 thrusters? I think it starts back at the 7 thrusters, and then 1 bar muscle up. Like, you need to divide, like, depending on where you're going to end up. If you have the volume, you still need to think about how fast you want to get through that, because you're still trying to maximize the whole workout, not the tie break. It's not about the tie break. Whoever does the most rep is going to win, and then you separate on the leaderboard with the tie break. So I think it's really important for people to realize what they can do in that first section, especially if they think that they can get a bar muscle up in, because then you still have, like, for the ladies, it's still like thrusters at 95 pounds. So like, how long is that going to take you if you need time again to recover so you can get 1 bar muscle up in? Like, you might need 2 minutes to go through those 95 thrusters at 95 pounds. Or you might want to do them in, like, I don't know, you're strong enough to do them unbroken, but then you need a minute and a half to get 1 bar muscle up. Like, whatever that combination is, you're still trying to get that 1 rep, because that will, jump you up on the leaderboard. So trying to aim for like a 4 or 5 minute, if you're just too tired and then you get 0 bar muscle ups, like, that's not going to help you on the leaderboard.
Mike, what are your thoughts on pacing on any of that stuff, especially on the thrusters?
I guess more like a general gym programming question for you, because the thought that I've had each week, and I think every gym definitely is going to be different, is generally know that in the open, there's going to end up being a ton of double unders, probably a lot of thrusters, and at some point, a lot of pull up of some sort volume. And for most people that I see in the gym, they're not accumulating 50 pull-ups in a week, or they're not accumulating 100 double unders in a week. And then all of a sudden the open comes, and now they have to do, 200 plus double unders or 50. Like, the chance to just get like borderline rhabdo for some people on stuff like this when they're not used to training it. So question being, like, do you take that into consideration with your gym community? Like, these are some movements that we want to have a good amount of volume build up before the open comes.
Oh yeah. Like, starting in January, like, we tell open prep for everyone for the open in 2025 starts March 19, like when the open is done on Monday. That's your open prep for next year. Like, it's not like a two month sprint, but like you said, in terms of volume and making sure that we're exposing people at the right time of the year so they accumulate the volume so that they can do well and feel confident going into the open, I think it's definitely important as a programmer from like January, February, like whenever the open starts, that you have more touch points, and it doesn't have to be in the workout. Like, we program for strict pull-ups in our warm-up, right? It's like 3 rounds. You guys are like 3 rounds of Cindy. Like, that can be like part of your general warm-up. So people are doing squats, people are doing push-ups, people are doing strict pull-ups. or ring rows, or like there's ways of incorporating that volume. Like you don't have to program double unders. You can have them as a finisher. You can have them part of the warm up. There's all these different ways of incorporating volume into the 60 minutes that you have in a class with people. But it is important. Like we definitely made a conscious effort to like do more of those things because we know they're coming.
Yeah, it was definitely fresh on my mind, especially I had some people that I saw that had like wow, I haven't done very many double unders and I just did all those double unders and now I can't walk like for the next 10 days. And it was just that reminder. Because I mean, I've done that even on a programming side of things for an individual athlete where I just something slips my mind and then all of a sudden I move them into a cycle where I didn't quite prep them for the amount of volume that I was, curating in my mind and in the open, just especially even a workout like this, just with the pull-ups, I'm like, if you're not accumulating a fair amount of volume, then like you said too, kind of maybe know how to chunk those into sets that aren't going to completely blow you up early.
Yeah, and just like in terms of total volume, like, yeah, if you haven't done a workout with 50 chest to bar pull-ups or just 50 of any pulling, what is that number for you? What is your range? And then like, great, anything above that is going to be a PR, but like know that you're more at risk of potentially ripping your hands or muscle failure. So if you're close to muscle failure, you need to have more rest in between your reps. So you need to calculate that. Like the clock is your friend, not your enemy. You have to learn to use the time properly. You have 15 minutes. You're trying to, like, for people who are not finishing the workout, you're trying to maximize 15 minutes, not blow through those first 5 rounds. That's super important.
So I like to give people, some sort of a touch point whenever possible. So for an athlete that's done Fran, which let's be honest, most people in CrossFit have probably done Fran a few times. If they know their Fran time and they've got the goal of, maybe they know they're not going to finish the whole workout, but to your point earlier, they still want to maximize their reps. Let's say their Fran time is 4:30. Like, how would you go about trying to communicate to them how they should be pacing relative to what they know the pace feels like at their 4:30 Fran time for this workout?
So if their Fran time is 4:30, ideally, and this is where like you, as a coach, you need to know your athlete. Like I need to know in what situation you have your bar muscle up. Is it fully fresh or have you done some like in a workout at some point? Or like for us, sometimes we do like tech parts. So it's like, let's say like an EMOM of 3 bar muscle ups for 5 minutes. I know that you've done 3, that you have about 45 seconds of rest and you can do 3 more, right? So I have an idea of volume and recovery. So that's going to allow me to give my athlete more insight as to like, well, do you want to slow down and aim for a 5.5 minutes? Or do you want to slow down to 6.5 minutes? Because I need to know how much time you need for that bar muscle up. So there's no like, it's funny, like everybody wants a cookie like format for like everybody. Like you're an elite or you're intermediate or you're this. Nobody fits into a mold, right? Like we can give general recommendations, but I prefer to give guidelines. And as a coach, like you need to know your athlete so that you can help them make the right decision of how much they need to slow down, right? Or again, it does say it's a minimum of 1 minute of rest. So you can rest more if you don't want to pick up the bar. Like, obviously, that's not necessarily like the best idea, but like you can have a minute and you can take a minute and a half if you want to do those thrusters unbroken, and then take another minute and a half to get through as many bar muscle ups. Like you have to know where you're going to be and then start playing around with your speed of like when I'm moving and doing the workout and my rest time so that I can move forward in the workout. And that's going to be a very different answer for everybody because everybody's at a different strength level. Everybody's at a different recovery level. Like this is a workout, like when they program recovery, it becomes a very different workout because everybody's recovery is different. And like, I know at Power Monkey Camp, like you guys have the aerobic capacity, like you have Hinshaw, like he's mentioned, it's like recovery is a component that you can train. Not a lot of people train it. And so now it becomes very hard to give people recommendations. Like I can give you recommendations on like whether you should do the thrusters unbroken if you give me like your 1 RM thruster, right? Like that becomes very easy. Same thing. Like, should you be doing like 2 sets of chest to bar? Should you be doing like singles? Like, because I know your total volume, that's much easier as coaches. Whereas rest is not something that we discuss as much in CrossFit. And so it's really hard to be like, well, where are you going to be for this workout?
I think the thing you're mentioning there that just needs some additional consideration is putting a lot of the we call it athlete ownership, right? On the athlete themselves. Like,
Yeah.
you need to think a little bit. You need to think not just when the open workout comes, but the other workouts that you're doing in preparation. It's not just about building your pull-up volume and making sure your thrusters are, you have the volume under your belt to be able to do 135, 49 times. You need to understand what your body needs in terms of how to, like you're saying, rest and recover and use the time appropriately. And a coach is not going to be able to do that for each individual in, a class setting. It's imperative on you as an athlete to recognize what's happening within these workouts and not just be blind.
Yep.
And so the athlete ownership component is really critical in making sure that you're expending the appropriate amount of energy per rep, per round, and resting when needed.
Exactly.
Yeah. So basically we're saying the athletes figure it out.
Yeah. I'm a great coach. Figure it out
on your own. No, it basically what we want is the athlete to be more aware.
Yes.
An aware
ideally,
athlete
as a coach, I've prepared you to be able to make those decisions, and I've programmed in a way that I give you the tools to make those decisions. Like, you're not going to figure it out on your own. Like, that's not athlete ownership comes when you coach them the right way and you give them the right tools and you give them the right information. And, I know you guys, as coaches and as athletes, like, yeah, as you get tired, like, what is going to be the cue that you're thinking about to make sure that you're doing chest to bar, right? Like, do you need to think of squeezing your butt more or pulling more with your lats? Like, whatever, like, ideally I've given that. And so as you're going through the workout, I'm counting your reps, and then you can think about like how to execute the movement. With your thrusters, like, once they get heavy, like, what is your focus? Driving through your heels, making sure your midline is stable. Like, what are you thinking? So those are things I think people are more accustomed to. Again, like with the rest, it's like, oh, I don't know what to do. And it's like, no, you have 15 minutes. Like, for everyone, you have 15 minutes, unless you're absolutely sure to get through the volume and, get through the whole thing.
Absolutely. All right. Some predictions from your perspective. Male and a female that really stand out as being primed to do well in this workout.
You better say Jeff.
Well, yeah. So.
I think Jeff will do well. I'm trying to think. Feel like Lazar could do well. Like, he's good at thrusters and pull-ups. I don't think 135 is gonna slow him down so much. It also depends where everybody is in the season, where they're on the leaderboard. Like, Alex Caron and Dallin are 1 and 2 right now. Like, these guys are gonna give it. Like, I'm looking for their scores. If this was a workout at the games, who would win? I don't know, because like Lazar now is not in the same spot on the leaderboard. I'm not sure where Lazar is on the leaderboard. Love you. I don't know where you are, but that's just an example. I think people, by the 3rd week of the Open, you kind of know where you are, and like, are you going to make it hurt as much? Like, yeah, it's cool if you win, you're going to make it hurt. If you're in the top 10 and you're happy with that, like, are you giving your best performance is what I'm saying. So I definitely think there's some people that would do well in general, and then there's people who are going to make it hurt to make sure that they win. And Dallin and Alex are in a really good position.
Yeah, they're 1 point away from each other right now. Yeah. 30 and 31, so they're 1 point away from each other. Top of the leaderboard. That should
be like a very interesting final week, because both of them are going to be good at that. Like, Dallin is fit. Alex is really good at just bar muscle ups. Like, the weight's not going to stop him. So we'll see. And then
anyone on the ladies' side?
I don't know the ladies. I'm really bad with the ladies. I'd have to well, first of all, like, the first 2 people on the leaderboard, because I was looking at the announcement. I'm not like, who are they? Do we have known people or unknown people?
Yeah, it's Grace Walton in first and Christy Bishop in second. Two Aussies.
Okay, so sorry, ladies, I'm not.
Ariel Lowen is 4th right now, and she's in striking distance. Actually, Grace Walton is kicking some ass. She's well ahead of the other 2.
Yeah, Brooke Wells is top 10.
But a lot of Nate, like, I know Kaya went to the games. Tia is 12. I mean, Tia should do well. I know her hand, like, I'm not sure how much it's going to affect, like,
I think she said she's out, right? Isn't she not going to be
she was
doing
just,
it?
no, she's just not doing the announcement because her and
Oh,
Eric
okay.
are supposed to go head to head. And like, if you, and I totally understand, if you're not gonna, and it's fine, if you're not gonna tell me what the workout is, and I'm treating an injury, I'm not gonna take a risk of like not getting enough warm up, making
Sure.
things worse, like all of that. So I think she just pulled out of the announcement, and then like she's still gonna do well on the workout.
Yep.
Thrusters and pull-ups. Like, didn't she win Friendly Fran? Like, yeah,
She's still
fine.
quite good. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a time that Jeff is realistically shooting for? Like we were saying, sub 10 is going to happen, and Jay was at 9:14. Like it's possible sub 9 is going to happen.
Oh yeah, I mean, we calculated it just in terms of like movement, transition, all of that. You're looking at around 7.5 minutes, but that's like transition, no rest. Like you're moving from like barbell and like jumping up and all of that. So I don't like. Is anybody going to be close to 7:30 to 8? Like that's going to be that would be like super, super impressive. I think we will see times between 8 and 9. Is it going to be more 8.5 to 9 or around 8.5? Like, again, it's really hard. We don't have as much data with rest workouts. And so is it a question of like speed of movement or recovery? And I think people are just like not as well versed to like gauge properly and see. So it just adds time at the end that they like if you take what they could do in the first part and they take what they do in the second part and you just added a minute, we would be around 8. But people aren't going to be there because you're throwing in the monkey wrench. So I'm looking forward to see where that time is going to be for the elite and more for the men. I mean, the women should potentially be a little bit faster because they're technically a little bit shorter. So you're just like increasing the cycle time, but it'll be interesting to see where they end up as well.
I love it. Can't wait. I'm excited to see what Jeff puts together for this workout. I'm hoping he does it unbroken. I think he can do it unbroken. So let's see it happen.
Dave, Dave, I only ask you to promise not to be unable to like bend your arms or your legs for your course this weekend. That's my only request.
The pulling stuff will be fine for me.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm going to do one thruster.
All right,
at
singles on the thrusters.
All singles at the 135 in the first round. I'll do a bar muscle ups and then I'll be done. That's my strategy's in place. I know exactly what score I'm going to get.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm excited to see this happen. Last weekend of the 2024 Open, week 3, all the listeners out there, get after it, have fun, be smart, be an athlete that's observing what's going on throughout the workout. Let's see if you can add a little bit of that athlete ownership to the equation for this last week. And Caroline, please give our best to Jeff. We wish nothing but the best for both of you. And I know you won the Open last year, and Jeff likes to win everything that he puts himself towards.
It's going to be hard this year with that first week announcement, but we'll do our best on week 3. So
that's all right. That's all right. It's part of the deal of being under the bright lights of week 1. Yep. But good luck with the next phase of the season, and hopefully see you soon.
Thank you.
Everyone else out there, complete the workout. Excited about next steps for all of you that are going on to the quarterfinals. We will be back to our regular schedule with our podcast starting next week on Wednesday. Listen up for those. And Power Monkey Camp is just around the corner. If you're interested in signing up, the next one will be April 28th to May 4th. You can find out more information at powermonkeycamp.com. And we will see you all next week.